Hey guys, it's Ryan and Dino here again. We wanted to sit down and talk for a few minutes about LinkedIn. It's a very broad topic, but I think it's an area where we can all learn a little bit more and use some of the things that we've learned to help maximize your abilities with the tool.
And also probably talk about some frustrations, and maybe even LinkedIn might listen. And what's the guy's name? Jeff Weiner?
Yeah, I would like to think
Weiner?
that. But, frustrations, wins, cool things that you can do and use it for. But like any big company, you get to a certain level, and then they're like, well, let's start monetizing everything we do. There's a part of that. Too.
Microsoft owns it, so now they just want to make as much money as they can, right? So they try to limit things and stuff like that. But as recruiters have been doing it successfully for a long time, I am constantly looking at LinkedIn.
Right. And, I've been using it for probably 8-9 years, and I've used paid versions in the past. Right now, I'm not even using a paid version.
You're not?
I'm not, which surprises people.
Wow.
And I'm still using it very, very effectively. And that's the thing. I think people think, at first, everything was changing, and I was like, I'm not going to be able to use this tool anymore because they want me to pay for everything. But I found a really happy medium where I can just use it and I think maximize some of the tools it has, and I don't pay a dime for it.
Yeah, I pay the $50 a month premium one, and that's just because I want to be able to see deeper connections. I want to see who's looking at my profile and follow up stuff like that. I want to be able to get a better reach. I don't really know. I feel my conspiracy theory here is that I feel like, and we'll get into this more about connecting with people on LinkedIn, but I feel like because I pay, that LinkedIn will not ever ban me or block me for blindly inviting people.
Because it should be true, right? They want to keep paying customers.
Because here's the deal: if they block me for inviting people and they say, "Oh, you can't invite people on LinkedIn anymore," then I will, in essence, cancel my subscription and then no longer pay them, and they'll no longer make the money. So that would be kind of a dumb move on their end, right?
Right. Well, and trust me, I've gotten to the threshold numerous times where they send out their warnings on, hey, this many people have said they don't know you. You got to be careful. And then I just change my tactics a little bit. But
that's the thing. It's like so here's the point of us wanting to create this podcast is because we want to hit this topic because, what is the point of LinkedIn, right? Why do we LinkedIn? Why do we use LinkedIn? What's the purpose and why do you use it? And Ryan and I have some notes that we wrote down, but basically when you sign up for LinkedIn, a profile, do you truly understand what you're getting yourself involved in? Do you believe that it's a professional Facebook? Is it a website for you to only connect with friends and families and coworkers, or maybe you only use it when you're looking for a job?
Right. And to piggyback on that, I was thinking, why do people really use it? And for me, it's okay to search out people or jobs that you may not have access to in other ways. Okay. I also thought, networking. I use it a lot to connect with people, meet new people, learn about new things. Some people, and this is what I think frustrates me the most, tend to use it, like Dino said, as their new Facebook, which I don't think it is. I see things on Facebook and I'm like, keep that personal, guys. I don't need to know or want to know about that stuff. This is a professional setting. And kind of leading into that, I think some people just use it as a visibility tool. How many things can I say? How many things can I put on here that draw attention to myself? And
sometimes it's good though for business, right? Because you want to kind of technically brand and draw attention to yourself and show that you're relevant in your industry. But I always find it fascinating when I meet somebody who holds a position which generally requires some level of networking or business development, and usually most jobs do. And their job success has a chance of varying due to how vast their network is, and they have under 100 LinkedIn connections. Or, say for example, I did business with a company in Phoenix, downtown Phoenix, last year. And they were a startup, and they were, they're growing, but they weren't really ready for recruiting services yet. It just wasn't within their. I don't want to bankrupt a company with recruiting fees, right? So before it even gets off the ground. So I invite one of the founders. What's that?
How much do you charge these people for your fees?
$1 million. So I saw them, pop up the other day. I thought about, I'm going to invite the guy that I dealt with, or the people. Actually, the guy I invited, the guy in this story, I never met. Right. But I think he might know who I am, right? Yeah. But maybe he doesn't. The other guy, the other founder, accepted my invitation immediately because he met me. We talked. We broke bread, the whole deal. But the other guy looks at my profile, and then
Doesn't
still a second connection.
Right.
Does not accept the connection.
Well, it's funny because I can almost, maybe it's because I've been using it so long, I can tell how active of a user people are. Well, simply by looking at their connections. Oh, this guy has 100 or below connections. They probably aren't on LinkedIn very often, right? But also how quickly people will respond to an invitation. And this leads me into a thought. It's not, because it's not like social media, in my opinion. I get it. Like, you don't want everyone being a connection on Facebook. I don't want some of my coworkers seeing what I'm doing in my personal time. I don't want people I don't like seeing that stuff. But for LinkedIn, I'm thinking, when I reach out to somebody, especially someone that you may have done business with or talked about doing business with, what does it hurt for them to be a connection? And that's what I want to ask people. Do you think that I'm going to have a deep look into your personal life if we're a connection? I mean, if anything, it's, hey, you might be able to see some of my connections. You might find an employee through my network that you could hire. You know, it's mutually advantageous, I think, for those connections. And I think some people get afraid of that, and I don't get it. I don't understand it.
Well, basically, I think did I lock this up? Oh, sweet Jesus.
Has it not been recording?
Oh, no.
So turn your screensaver off.
Oh, this is like, I guess I got to turn my screensaver off. Hold on.
Maybe we've mentioned we work in technology, but we seem to have problems.
Anyway, so I'll just keep talking. So what was it talking? Okay, so the guy basically gives me his business card, and then, you know, we're all have business cards and stuff like that. So yeah, I think it's like on a 30-second.
Yeah, I'll just keep buzzing it.
Just keep shaking it or whatever. So then I decided I'm not going to give business cards out anymore, right? After a bunch of people started hitting me up for sales stuff and things like that. So now what I say is, when I meet people, I go, hey, do you have a car? I say, no, but let's connect on LinkedIn. Right. That way, you have my contact information on LinkedIn, because I'm one of the people who put my phone number and my email on LinkedIn. Well,
it's also, and I think in a non-threatening way, what happens, and maybe this is just me, but I think in our age of everything so accessible, what's the first thing you do? Even if you're out and you see a company that you want to, you know, maybe you're at the store. I'll go to their website on my phone before I do anything, because I want to research more about the company. This kind of gives them and you the opportunity to do a little professional creeping into the person you're talking to. Like, look at your background, see what you've done, where you've been, provide some insight. And I don't think that's a bad thing. I don't think it's a bad thing to every new meeting I go on with a manager. The first thing I do is I try to find out everything I can about them. I start at LinkedIn. I want to know where they came from, what they did, what their background is, what school they go to. You know, I think simple sales 101 tactics.
I look up everybody on LinkedIn.
100%. And so I guess going back, I don't understand the timidness of people to share that information. It doesn't make sense.
It's you know, some people though who are generally on there, they get on it and they become a little bit more addicted, right? So like I see and I'm not trying to name names, so I'm not going to try to avoid getting specific here, but there's like an engineering leader that I am connected with on there, who's on there a lot, and his defense might be, I'm recruiting, I'm keeping an eye out for recruiting, but he's on there like a lot. Right. So like I see, like when he likes stuff, I see him comment on things, you know, and you know, he's like on it. Right. But you're like an engineering leader. You're leading like a team of tech leaders on a large enterprise environment, and you're always on LinkedIn, like all the time. Right. So, okay. So I send him a message. You know, he likes, I like his articles. He likes my articles sometimes, things like that we write. I send him a message to say, hey, you know, FYI, you know, this is when I'm trying to proactively market this CIO, right? And I send him like, hey, by the way, you know, we've got this great CIO, $500 million, you know, publicly held company globally, you know, you know, I know that you said reach out if you ever had one. Never responds, right? It's fine. It's okay. You know what? Obviously, you're not interested, right? But the whole point on LinkedIn, which cracks me up, is, you know, a few weeks ago, I read a post by a VP of HR that one of my connections had liked. And this is a person I'm not connected to. But I was able to see their post because of how LinkedIn is structured. And so the post said, and this is from my memory, you know, here's not how to sell to me. And he said, this is how you don't sell to me. Send me an invite on LinkedIn and immediately send me a sales pitch. And then I started laughing at this because, apparently this guy prefers the old-fashioned way of cold calling his office and cell phone.
Well,
maybe
you've got your gatekeeper, you got your secretary there that can screen those things for you.
Right? Maybe he wants you to like drop off bagels and donuts, or he wants you to like call a cell or something like that, right? So you're telling me don't send me a message which I can easily ignore and then put into the email fodder. Call me directly and bug the hell out of me.
Well, and I'm not going to answer you. You're going to do that, but I'm still not going to answer you that way either. It's probably the approach you would take. I want you to do it this way, but I'm going to not respond that way either.
Yeah.
I think you just don't want to get bombarded over email or LinkedIn.
I don't think anybody does.
I get that, but take it as a form of flattery. Like someone's reaching out to you, inquiring about your skills or your experience.
Or wants to do business with your company, which makes you possibly a valid organization.
Right. And, maybe people don't look at it that way. And I can understand. Before I got into the recruiting and staffing business, I was in advertising. I was in front of clients all the time. I was, selling. But I had 173 LinkedIn connections. I never forget that number. It was 173 when I went into staffing. Now, I've grown that exponentially. But I didn't understand how I could have used that in my other industry, in sales, but in a different industry. I just don't think people always understand the benefits that come from LinkedIn. So that could be part of it. But, also it's if someone's been in a company for, let's say, 10 years, why would they need to get on LinkedIn? They usually don't unless they have a need that presents itself. They get laid off. They need to, they get fired. Then where do they go? They go to their network. But if you haven't been building, it's like anything else. If you haven't been exercising, if you haven't been growing that network, what good does it do when you actually need it? And that's what I think for me is it's a constant thing. You can't just get on LinkedIn when you need it. You have to be always refreshing it, meeting new people, because there's no point in using it as a network if you don't use it until you absolutely need it.
No, totally. It's like for me, I guess. So here's the kind of connections that I get that I usually ignore, right? So if you're visibly not in the United States and most likely never going to be here to do business with me on any level, right? Like a lot of recruiters will connect with me, right? And sometimes you can tell that it's a really when their
profile picture is Justin Bieber, that might be a giveaway.
Exactly. Or it's very, very broken English, or it's just kind of there's some sketchy looking profiles that are put together, right? And I'll say no to those. And sometimes what I get a lot of like lead gen ones, and it's because I don't know, maybe because on my profile it says like founder or something like that, right? So what I would do is I get all these messages and these like invitations from people who are selling lead gen and marketing services, and I just say no thanks. Thanks for your reaching out. I mean, they have like a thing on there, like you can auto button respond, like thanks, I'm not interested.
Yep.
Right. Mm-hmm. And so I'll do that from time to time, but I try not to overly invite or accept invitations from that specific industry. Right. But if you're like, hey, I'm even if it's something that I have nothing to do with, right?
Yep.
If you're like a wastewater technician in the city of Glendale, like, if you're here in Arizona, I'll invite you.
Do you know how many times I will accept one of those, and then months later I'm like, you know what? I connected with a guy that might know about this, and it's it's a useful tool to connecting with people that might be experts in something you're not, and it happens all the time. I mean, yes, the majority of my connections have to do with technology and in that space, but I have a lot of teachers. I have a lot of marketing people. I have people from advertising, which I used to be in, that still reach out, But yeah, you know how I met my water softener guys was because of a LinkedIn reference, So it's...
Did you really?
That stuff happens, yeah.
You found Pro Skill Plumbing?
Well, okay.
Is it Pro Skill?
There's one more. There's a third connection. So one of my coworkers found them through a LinkedIn connection, who then referred them to me. So indirectly through LinkedIn.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
small world, man.
Yeah, and they're up in Anthem.
I was just actually on a co-ed kickball team, adult league in Anthem, with one of the founders, Travis.
Oh yeah,
Travis Ringy.
Yeah,
I think it's Ringy, Ringe.
Yeah, I gotta call them. I gotta get a service.
Good people, man. Yeah. Good people. They do all this stuff up there. So. Yeah, I mean, anyway, so that's a lot of the things with LinkedIn. So then I look at a lot of people on LinkedIn, right? So you see a lot of the basic people that you see feeds on. So let me talk about some pet peeves of mine.